Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Life Podcast with your hosts, Rob and Randy, who reveal the truth, the lies, and confusion about health so that you are no longer the victim to mainstream medical dogma and you are the hero to your own happy, healthy story.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to the Happy, Healthy Life podcast.
Is that hard to say? That should roll right off the tongue at this point, right?
You would think, with your host, Rob
and Randy.
And we are
the Happy, Healthy Guys.
Yay. Welcome back to another episode of the Happy, Healthy Life. I know last time we talked about the GLP-1 drugs. We talked about why so many people are doing them. We talked about the risks associated with that as well. And then we promised you on this episode number 83, which is hard to believe. We're on episode 83 of the Happy, Healthy Life. We're going to be talking today about solutions. We're also going to be talking about the risks associated with these solutions as well, and why one of the big things that's out there right now, Dr. Randy, is intermittent fasting. We're going to talk about the benefits. We're going to also talk about the risks behind that. We're going to talk about something that we both love, which are also thermal therapies, whether it's heat, infrared sauna, cryotherapy, all those different things. We're going to talk about the benefits, how they can help you with your metabolism, how they can help you to be able to lose weight, or do they help you with your metabolism?
They help you, or you just have another really expensive habit that's taking your time, your money, your energy, and you're not getting the results. And although last time we talked about the dangers of these GLP-1 drugs, we just kind of hit the highlights for a really deep dive on this topic on a prior podcast. I don't know which one it is. This maybe a couple, 3 months ago. We did a full deep dive on the dangers of the drugs, the agenda behind it. But for today, we're going to give some real solutions and talk about what can you do, because obviously your body has an enzyme pathway in the small intestine that makes GLP-1 drug-free.
There you go. Yeah, so your body makes it. Fantastic. All right.
Shocking. How about that, man? The body has a solution.
The body does have a solution. Seen that coming? Something else that we are going to be doing is we're going to be answering some viewer questions as well. Some of the listeners that have chimed in asking questions about things like cholesterol, for example. Is it good? Is it bad? What's up with that? We'll answer those questions as well. Should I be getting lab work done? Any lab testing done? We'll talk about that also. And so let's get we got a lot to talk about. Yeah. Let's unpack this and let's get this party started. So intermittent fasting. What in the world is intermittent fasting? I know what it isn't. It's not starving yourself to death, although some people are starving themselves to death using intermittent fasting. But what is intermittent fasting?
Yeah, and some people even call it that TRE, time restricted eating. And basically the premise behind it is you're obviously, as you can imagine in the word fasting, you're not eating. Okay, so you're taking a short window of time to not consume any calories or any food. I believe it only takes maybe 30 or 40 calories, Dr. Rob, to break a fast. And what is defined as breaking a fast is when you eat anything or drink anything and your body starts to create cortisol. However, some things don't need to be eaten or drinking to break that fast, because you start to secrete insulin and you start to raise cortisol. Did I say that correctly, or did I switch that around? Breaking a fast is when your body secretes insulin.
You did say that.
Okay, I'm making sure.
I'm pretty sure.
So for clarity, it's when anything that you eat or drink, you secrete insulin, that's going to break your fast. But there are other things that can break your fast potentially because of other hormones that are involved. But for today's purpose, we'll talk about, most people think of fasting or intermittent fasting as maybe eating your food and maybe a 10, 8, 6, even maybe a 4-hour feeding window, or even the new thing, which really isn't that new, but they call it OMAD, which is the 1 meal a day, which is obviously a very, very long and extended fasting window. But the goal of, really of fasting and really of intermittent fasting is to give your body a break from constantly having to digest and break down food, because a lot of people, their microbiome is a wreck. They've eaten so much processed food and seed oil. They've had so many years of antibiotics and artificial sweeteners and artificial coloring. They've destroyed their gut. And so it really gives your body a break from eating food, which really is a good thing, because if you think about it, you really do get a fast when you go to sleep. So some people think if you fast, you're going to die. Trust me, you're not going to die. You got plenty of calories sitting around your body. Some of you have more than others. It's called body fat and visceral fat, where it's laying around your hips, your thighs, your belly. That is stored energy. But you do get that natural fast just when you go to bed. So you have, that 10, 12 hours where you could be consuming food, and then you go to bed maybe at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., or 10 p.m., and you don't have food again until the next day around that same time. So there is already a fast in place. But what we're seeing is, and we can talk about more of the benefits of this before we talk about some of the problems, but some of the benefits are you are probably going to lose some weight. That's right. It does work, and that's why a lot of people will torture themselves and do it for long periods of time. At some point, that will stop, but you can lose weight, and one of the reasons you're losing weight on an intermittent fasting is probably why.
Well, because you're decreasing your calories. You're not putting any calories into the system at all, so there's no calories that are needing to be burned. And here's the challenge with that, is that if your body's not already fat adapted, or your body doesn't know how to burn calories or fat calories for energy, well, guess what? You know what? That's going to be a very short window of time that you actually are losing weight, because your body's like, wait a second. I'm not going to get any more food, and it doesn't know how to actually burn the fat for fuel. So what it's going to do is going to take the calories first from the carbohydrates or the sugar, and then your body will want to start taking energy from your muscle stores, and nobody wants that.
No, obviously, the weight you're losing, I mean, you can definitely lose it. But, when you think about when you're cutting out all of that food and you're really getting down into this really short window, and we're talking about doing this for long periods of time, what happens is you're not getting the amount of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals that you need. So in the long term, if you're cutting out a lot of your food, you're eating less food in shorter windows, and you're fasting more, you're not getting key nutrients. So what's that going to do to your overall health and metabolism? You can see a lot of problems with your body that is going to be directly linked to nutrient deficiencies. On top of that, when your body is in a constant state of fasting and nutrient deprivation, which is essentially what it can be if it's done long term, that is a stressful response in the body. It's kind of like what you said, Dr. Rob. If your body's not getting food for a longer period of time, it really thinks you're probably in a famine.
Yeah.
You're in survival. So what's your metabolism going to do? It's definitely not going to speed up, because if it did, you'd die very, very quickly. What's it going to do?
Exactly. And here's the challenge. Okay. One of the biggest challenges, even with intermittent fasting, is even by definition, whereas you'll look at a traditional diet, which focuses on decreasing your caloric intake with food, versus fasting, that's focusing on when you eat. So one of the common intermittent fasting, if they're telling you to start, is a 16-8 time period. In other words, probably the most popular. Yeah. So you're eating over an 8-hour time period, and then over the other 16 hours, which is part of your sleep, you're not eating. So a lot of people will literally go from like 8 o'clock at night till the next morning. They're not eating again until the next day around lunchtime, and then they're keeping an 8-hour window. So it could be you ate at 8 p.m., you get up the next day, you don't eat, and then at 12 noon, you have your next meal, and then you make sure that you have your next meal before that 8 p.m. window, and that would be at 16-8. So that's where people will start. But like you're saying, if you're not getting nutrients into the system, it can actually have detrimental effects to your body, especially if, for a lot of people that are doing this specifically for losing weight.
Yeah.
Because if they're doing it specifically for losing weight,
that's the worst thing to do.
They're trying to do it because they've got some kind of an event to go to, or maybe they want to get into a swimsuit or whatever. So they're like, I heard people can lose weight by doing intermittent fasting. They'll start an intermittent fast to lose weight quickly, and the next thing you know, they stop losing the weight because they're not getting the nutrients into their body. They're starving it. They're putting too much hormetic stress into the body, or they go on the vacation, or they go whatever it is that they were wanting to lose the weight for. They go right back to eating the way that they were eating before, putting the crap back into their body that they were putting in before. They get all that weight back, and even more weight back. And the reason for that is because their body didn't have metabolic flexibility to begin with. They were putting not good nutrients into the body to begin with before they even started it. Their body hasn't detoxed of all of those poor nutrients that were in there, which is, I mean, that's really the name of the game right now as far as the government goes, is allowing these toxic chemicals to be able to go into foods just so that they have longer shelf life. Meanwhile, our shelf life is decreasing because of that.
That's a good point. I like what you said there. Yeah, the food is living longer and we're dying quicker. Yeah, what a concept, right?
Yeah, so those are the problems with that intermittent fasting, because people are using it specifically to lose weight.
Yeah, because we fast. We do. I fast.
I fasted yesterday. I did a 24-hour fast. I broke my fast last night around 8 o'clock. Eating, and I love my favorite food. We'll do I'll do a 24-hour fast at least once a week. Okay. This last weekend was celebrating my birthday. Was in the Bahamas. Probably had 1 or 2 glasses of wine while I was there. I wanted to, and you know what? And just full transparency, I wasn't perfect with my food there. However, I was making sure that I was asking questions as far as if I was eating a steak. I'm like, hey, what'd you guys cook that with? Did you guys use seed oil? What'd you do with that? So I'm being intentional about those things, but I wasn't perfect. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that I detoxed from whatever impurities went into my body over the course of the weekend. And so yesterday I had done a 24-hour fast, broke that fast last night, and I feel phenomenal today, but that's utilizing it for that purpose.
Yeah, and one of the benefits of a 24-hour fast, which obviously the best way to do that is from dinner until the next morning or the next day when you have dinner again. So if you had dinner at 7 p.m., don't eat until 7 p.m. the next day. Easiest way to do it. So you can also use the sleep time, which you'd normally be fasting anyway. You should be fasting. And you'll get women get a 1,300% increase in growth hormone. Ladies, if you want to reduce wrinkles, reduce body fat, and tighten the skin, there isn't a better strategy than human growth hormone. It is the holy grail. It is the pinnacle of anti-aging, and our body makes it. So you'll get a 1,300% increase in a 24-hour fast. What would they charge for a cream or a pill or a pharmaceutical that would do that to growth hormone naturally? You can only imagine what they would charge for that. Men, wake up, man. We get a 2,000% increase in human growth hormone. Men, if you got belly fat, you don't have strong libido, you're losing your hair, I'm telling you right now, 24-hour fast can go a long, long way to crank up growth hormone naturally. This is awesome stuff. However, going back to, if you stay in these low calorie, low nutrient type metabolic states, what will happen is your body will be in a crisis. It will be in a famine. And this, I'm sure, happened a lot with our ancestors. There probably wasn't access to food. The original intermittent fasting was called growing up in the 1700s. It's like maybe there wasn't
available
to food, and maybe you got one meal. Maybe there were times you had multiple meals. There was more access to food or nutrients or nutrition. But if you do this long term, you're going to start to create what is called physiological insulin resistance. Now, it's not pathological, right? So pathological is a metabolic disease. For example, diabetes is a pathological insulin resistance. Very dangerous. Obviously, it can be reversed with the right strategies. You guys know in our community, this is very, very fixable, easy to turn around in just a matter of days and weeks. But I'm talking about physiological insulin resistance, where now your body is creating insulin resistance, and here is why. Guys, glucose, which essentially carbohydrates all break down to glucose. It's a simple sugar. It doesn't matter what carbohydrate you eat. It doesn't matter what the glycemic index is. All carbs break down to glucose, and glucose is essential for metabolic function, specifically for the brain and nervous system. Well, the problem is if you don't eat enough food and you don't eat enough carbs and you stay in this fasted state, you're going to raise cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Now, it's not a bad hormone. It's a rescue hormone, and it's there for a reason. But what it will do, it's going to help your body begin to break down connective tissue and muscle to create amino acids to form a process called gluconeogenesis, where your body now has to make its own glucose. All right. Now, great. That is a great strategy. That is a rescue strategy, but not a good long-term strategy that your body's having to make all of its glucose needs. And so what'll happen with physiological insulin resistance, and I hope this is making sense, is now your muscle and your liver will no longer take up glucose. They become insulin resistant because you got to conserve all the glucose you possibly have to make sure that your brain is getting it, along with your gonads, which is another organ that needs glucose for reproduction. So this is big, big stuff. You don't want to be in long-term fasting. You don't want to be in a long-term nutrient deficit. The metabolic the metabolic detriment is huge. The insulin resistance could be huge. It could be one of the reasons why your health really isn't turning around. In fact, how many clients, Dr. Rob, would you say we've worked with over the last, God knows how many years at this point? You know, the official launch of Happy Healthy was 2015, but we've been in this for 25 years. How many people have we worked with that are chronically sick, they're overweight, they're diabetic, they're medicated, they're not doing well, they're depressed, they've got gut issues, and they're in a low energy state from years of fasting, intermittent fasting, OMAD, or dieting and not getting nutrients. You almost have to become unhealthy in America to lose weight, right? You do Jenny Craig, you count your points, you restrict your calories, you eat fake food, you lost weight, but you're now unhealthy, and all that weight's coming back with a vengeance. Not picking on Jenny Craig, just the one that came to mind, but all diets have that in common. It's all nutrient deprivation. It's loaded with toxic chemicals and seed oils, and it's putting your body into a long-term high-stress state. So fasting can be great.
So to answer your question that you asked me, is about 95%.
Okay, there you go.
Of the people.
95%, guys. This is dangerous.
So because here's the 95% of the people, if not more, have tried every single thing on the planet to try to lose weight, whether it's keto, paleo, Jenny Craig, Atkins, all of those different things for the same reason. So it's some kind of form of exactly what it is that we're talking about. But then it all goes back to, here's the reason that they could not lose the amount of weight that they wanted to, or their body was not physiologically able to do that, is they didn't have a good, firm metabolic foundation. So it doesn't matter if you're intermittent fasting, it doesn't matter if you're dieting, doing any of those things. If you do not have a solid foundation, it's going to be virtually impossible to be able to lose the weight and then keep the weight off. Like we have clients right now who are asking questions right now, like a 24-hour fast question. Thanks for the question, Nicole. Says, can you do lunch to lunch instead of dinner to dinner fast? The answer to that question is yes. And do you try to consume a certain amount of calories, or you just eat a regular meal? For someone who has been on our program, which is why I'm so happy that she's the one asking the question. For you, it would be, you know what? Eat nutrient-dense foods. Don't worry about it. Just make sure that you're getting your nutrients from your foods. You're not in the program or on program right now. And
the metabolism program.
The metabolism program, that's what I would say. Now, if you're not somebody that we've worked with, I would say no. Get yourself a good solid metabolic foundation first, so your body does have metabolic flexibility. Your body is fat adapted, because if not, you could be starving your body, the cells, of the nutrients that they need, and that's not going to be a long-term solution at all. You might lose weight the day that you do the fast. However, guess what? As soon as you go back to eating whatever it is that you were eating before, you're gaining it back, and you're gaining back more. You're going to have low energy. You're not going to feel good. Your libido is going to be down. You're not going to be sleeping well. So many different things can happen as a result of doing that. And that's what's happening right now, which right now, the adult population, there's 10 to 15% of the adult population has tried intermittent fasting, and it's because of the reasons that we're talking about right now, and they're not metabolically flexible, so their body has no idea how to be able to go back and forth between burning carbohydrates for fuel or burning fats for fuel.
Well, so I want to make everybody, this is to make that point clear, that's huge. So yeah, 24-hour fast can be great. We use them. We use them as more of a hormetic stress, a controlled short-term environment where our body's going to adapt and become stronger. They can be used that way. But if I heard you correctly, and I agree, if you're not metabolically flexible, which is kind of that new buzzword, but it just means that you have a strong metabolism where it can use fat when it needs to, it can use carbohydrates when it needs to. Both of those are energy sources of fuel for the body. Protein is not. Protein gives your nutrients, your structure, your amino acids, the backbone of everything. But your energy calories are your carbohydrates and your fat, and you need both. But if you're not metabolically healthy, if you're not metabolically flexible, which means you're not insulin sensitive, and you're not fat adapted, 24-hour fasting could really hurt you because you're probably already a chronic dieter and in a low energy state, and your metabolism isn't strong enough to take that type of stress, which is why a lot of stresses people use can cause problems. We can talk about more of those in a second, but a 24-hour fast, that is a stress. Intermittent fasting, that is a stress, and it can definitely be abused. So I like your answer to that, because just fasting isn't necessarily the answer. The goal should always be, how do I get metabolically strong, right? And metabolism just isn't about being skinny. It's not about just being ripped and having lots of muscle. Guys, your resilience to life and how you adapt and your longevity is directly correlated with the health of your metabolism. We're talking about your mitochondria, cellular health. This is big, big stuff. And it's really the foundation of everything now in this longevity biohacking space, but it can never be accomplished with the current way we're doing it, with all the fad diets, all the processed food. You're cutting calories, but you're also cutting nutrients. So yeah, eat real food, don't eat fake food, and stop counting macros, stop counting calories, start counting nutrients, which is only found in bioavailable whole food nutrition, which you guys know we talk about all the time: proteins, carbohydrates, fats, the right carbs, the right proteins, because all that stuff is not created equal.
It's not. And I love the fact that we're talking about this right now, because even, like, for example, last week, we were on another podcast that run the Sapiens Center down in Austin, Brian Sanders. And this guy, I mean, he's a specimen. If you look at him, he's ripped.
Absolutely.
With the Sapiens Center, they have every single kind of modality. When you look in the biohacking space, the cryotherapy, the infrared sauna therapy, they do the infrared sauna that we'll be talking about here in just a minute. And the reason I bring this
plunging like crazy.
Cold plunge is the reason that I even bring this up, because even he said it in the podcast. He's like, guys, you know what? I think that I would benefit from what it is that you guys are talking about, to be able to make sure that my body's metabolism is working exactly the way it's supposed to. So I love that. And we're the same exact way. If there's something that we feel that we can be able to benefit from in order to be able to have healthier longevity, right? That's the name of the game. We're going to do that as well. And so people are recognizing that what it is that they're doing with these different things like the intermittent fasting or just the thermal modalities, just by themselves and on their own, aren't getting them to where it is that they need to go. So you got to know how to be able to utilize these things correctly, utilize them together. Or it's what we talk about, is this death by a la carte. Is you're going, you know what, I'm going to do a little bit of this intermittent fasting. I'm going to do a little bit of this cold plunging. I'm going to do a little bit of this over here. I'm going to do whether it be a magnetic therapy or whatever the therapy is, Rife, PPMI, PEMF, all these different things. I'm going to do a little bit of this here. And as many of the biohacking conferences that we went to most recently, we've also seen some of the most unhealthiest people that we've ever run into as well, because it's just doing a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. They don't have a good foundation, like you always say. We want to make sure that we build this foundation on the rock, not the sand. That's unstable. You would never build a house that way. So let's build this house on this metabolically stable foundation. So
yeah, amen to that. So yeah, quick recap on that. Yeah, can fasting be an important part of any type of health strategy? No question about it. But going back to what you said, it's all about building that metabolic foundation, having a strong, robust metabolism, being not only fat adapted, right? But the other side of that is also being carbohydrate adapted. And that is something that a lot of people don't fully understand or don't know how to accomplish. Just becoming, gaining the ability to burn fat for energy probably comes a little bit easier for most people if you've done even doing fasting and ketos and carnivores and things like that, you can probably accomplish some of that on some level long term. Not a good long-term strategy, once again, because you're going to create high amounts of cortisol and stress and potential physiological insulin resistance. But getting the body's ability to also burn carbohydrates for fuel is the other piece to the metabolic flexibility puzzle. And so that's why we created the Happy Healthy Thin program, to not only help people lose weight if they need to, but to really build strong metabolic foundation where you can burn fat, you can burn carbohydrates, your body needs them both, and it needs to be able to go back and forth and utilize both of those sources of fuel. And if you're not able to do that, and how do you know if you're not able to do that? Well, you're the person, you lost weight, whatever program you did, you eat a couple of bananas and drink a glass of orange juice, and all the weight comes back. That means you're not metabolically flexible. That means you're probably physiologically insulin resistant from too low calories, fasting, starving yourself, and diet plans.
Yeah. So with the time that we have left, I think that, I think we leave the thermal therapy for our next podcast, and give you something to look forward to. And
let's even deep dive. We can even deep dive more on carbohydrate adaptation, which I think is a huge topic. Not a lot of people are addressing. Maybe they don't understand what that means, but I think it's a huge thing to strong metabolic function.
So what you're saying is that you don't have to eliminate carbohydrates in order to be able to stay metabolically healthy.
Oh my gosh, if carbohydrates made us sick and fat, I'd be pretty big and I'd be pretty sick.
Amen to that. Exactly right.
And I used to be the low carb, carbs are the devil guy. Trust me, y'all know my story. My life BC and AC, before cancer, after cancer. Before cancer, carbohydrates are the devil. And now, wow, was I wrong? They can be such a huge part of a healthy lifestyle. So we'll save all that. We'll tease that. Maybe we'll talk about some of that in our Labor Day office hours with Coach Justine.
I think that would be fantastic. So you want to get to the question that you had about the cholesterol and answer that before we jump off of here?
It's going to be way too long. We'll save that one too. Yeah, we've gotten, and thank you guys too who do this. Always, we encourage you guys, send us an email with any questions, any comments, any feedback that you have. We value that. One of the emails we just got recently, which I thought was very, very important, it was talking about cholesterol. One of our good friends, clients, had lost a ton of weight, doing great, feeling amazing, sleeping better. They go to their doctor, and of course, their doctor says, "Hey, I'm really excited that you're healthier. What did you do? However, your cholesterol is way too high, and you're at high risk for a heart attack or a stroke, and you need to start oral therapy immediately," which obviously they were talking about what? Cholesterol, drugs, statins. And so it was an interesting, because we've had these conversations with many, many people regarding this issue. Isn't it crazy how you do all these things to get yourself healthy, and then you go to your doctor and they're like, "No, you're not healthy because I ran a test, and because a pharmaceutical industry created a certain parameter on what is healthy and what is not, and you're outside that norm. Now I get to legally say you're not healthy and legally use fear to prescribe you drugs that I want you to stay on for the rest of your life." Wow. When everything becomes a biomarker that easily, it seems like every single thing they can test, there's a drug for it. So be careful with that when you go to your doctor. Not saying don't go to a doctor. We are saying be careful with a lot of these blood tests and the blood work. They're really misleading and they have nothing to do. Listen, you start eating better and exercising and losing weight and sleeping better and getting rid of seed oil and spending more time in gratitude, getting outside in the sun, getting your feet on the ground, moving your body. And you go to your doctor and they say that you're not healthy because you're doing all these things because of some stinking blood test. You know that doctor's bought and paid for by the pharmaceutical industry. Just keep it real, guys. That is a shill. That person's bought and paid for. They are literally dealing drugs, and it's criminal and it's outrageous and it's wrong. So remember, you're your best advocate. We'll save that email. I'll read the whole thing and we'll deep dive a little bit on cholesterol. Why his cholesterol was, quote, high, according to this doctor, and why high cholesterols don't always mean that something's wrong. In fact, it usually means the opposite.
You know what? That's a great segue into letting you guys know that we have now opened up the art of living happy, healthy, so you can do all the things that Dr. Randy just talked about with the grounding, the meditation, gratitude. We're going to talk about all of these strategies, deep dive into them at the Art of Living Happy, Healthy retreat that is going to be in Tulum, Mexico. So that's now opened up to the public. If you go to h2thinvirtual.com Tulum. It'll give you all the information that you ever wanted to know about this trip. It is going to be the last weekend in October. The date exactly, let me pull up a calendar right quick. That way we can be able to give you the right date on that.
I got a text this morning from my sweet mother. She's like, I booked my tickets to Tulum. So she is already booked, ready to go. So I'm excited to have Mama Freddie she was with us in Italy last year. She'll be back in Tulum with us at the Art of Living Happy Healthy. Those of you who know my mom, pretty amazing lady. You need to connect with her. She's a rock star. Be 76 years old in October before she goes to the trip. Zero medication, has not been to a medical doctor in 20 years, has done the Happy Healthy Thin program at her high school weight. This woman is 0.01% of the population. And you talk about living in gratitude and loving her life and thankful for what God has done. This woman just vibrates health, healing, and good energy.
Yeah, she's the best. So it's October the 23rd through the 27th. I'll put the website, the link in the show notes. That way you guys have it. But it's h2thinvirtual.com/Tulum. And then those of you guys who are wondering about what your metabolism is doing, how your metabolism is working, you can always go to metabolismscore.com. And that will give you a quiz so that you can see where your metabolism is at. So that you can be able to know if you need to get that healthy foundation. So yeah, Sherry, his mom is absolutely an inspiration. She is the best. So
she is.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Happy Healthy Life podcast.
Like it, share it, guys. Get this out there. If you've not given us a review, we would love your review. It means the world to us. Let's get this message out to more people in a world where more people are sick, hurting, depressed, medicated, overweight, and praying for a miracle. You could be that miracle. Share this show. Give us a review. Like it. We appreciate you. And God bless each and every one of you.
For our clients, do not get off. You want to stay on so that we can answer your questions, and we will talk to the rest of y'all later.
Thanks for listening to the Happy Healthy Life podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure to follow them on Instagram at the H2 Life or on YouTube and Facebook at the Happy Healthy Guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.